Aloha! I'm Kumu Rhonda and this is Aloha, my daughter. So today we thought we could do a little short, a little snippet, a little bit about us and maybe a little bit about the things that we learned when we were little as children with hula. So some of the questions Aloha is going to ask, we'll probably just have a little discussion, so bear with us.
This is our first time doing this. But I wanted to ask you, how long have you been dancing hula? And also, how have you danced hula? Because you mentioned both professionally and competitively. And also, how many kumu hulas have you had?
All right, so it's about 20 years that I've danced hula, maybe 21, and I got married pretty young. And I just pretty much stopped dancing hula. I just, was married extremely young and I had 5 children, one after the next. So it's been a blessing. However, let's go back to when I started hula. So I was 9 or about 10, and my mother had found a hula instructor. Her name was Aloha Lāleʻa in Wahiawa, Oahu, Hawaii. And she was my first hula instructor. I think back then in the 80s, I don't think she really considered herself as a kumu because she asked us to just call her Aloha Lāleʻa. So my introduction to hula was basically a hula teacher or a hula instructor. But of course we know that as a kumu, right? So Aloha Lāleʻa was my first hula instructor since I was 9 or 10. And I danced with her all the way till I was like in high school. Right when I graduated pretty early, about 17 years old. And then I went to college at the Brigham Young University of Hawaii, which is my alma mater. And I was able to dance at the Polynesian Cultural Center. And my kumu hula there is, or he's still alive, Cy Bridges. That's my kumu hula. So basically I just had Aloha Lāleʻa and then I had kumu Cy Bridges, which is where I learned a lot more performing hula at the Polynesian Cultural Center with my kumu hula Cy Bridges. But also he had a halau called Hui Ho'oulu Aloha. That's where I learned how to do a lot of performing at the Mary Monarch. And but at the Polynesian Culture Center, which is short as PCC, my instructor there was Ellen Gay. Her name is Ellen Gay De La Rosa, but her Hawaiian last name is Kekua Kalani. That was the name. And her mother is Auntie Vicky Kekua Kalani. Such a beautiful family from Laie, Oahu, Hawaii. And I'll just always remember and love her mother so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good memories. Awesome. But she was my instructor at the Polynesian Cultural Center, and I just learned all of the night show dances called This is Polynesia, which I did Fiji, Tahiti, and Hawaii. And I did the day show at 12 o'clock at the Polynesian Cultural Center. So that's where I learned a lot of the hula, and that's what I was able to learn before I got married.
Yeah, so that was more of your performance side, but then you also did competitively with kumu Cy Bridges, right?
Correct. So in 1980, I want to say 86 or 87, at the Mary Monarch on the Big Island of Hawaii, is his first announced for the Hula Ho'oulu Aloha Halau Miss Aloha Hula contestant. I did okay. I think I could have done better, but I was pretty nervous being the first. And I think back then in the 80s, it wasn't as competitive as it is today. Like today, they're more like particular with your steps and your olelo, etc. But just back then, I did my best, and I'm sure, Kumu Cy was proud of me, and I just did my best.
So was that your first time competing in Mary Monarch? And also, did you do hula awana or hula kahiko?
For the Miss Aloha Hula, you do both. You do kahiko and awana, and you do it all by yourself. So you have to learn everything by yourself. However, you also have to learn what the halau is doing for kahiko night as a group of women, and then the awana night, which is Saturday with all of the women. So you've got 4 routines to learn all in that same competition night weekend at the Merry Monarch.
Cool. So was that your only time performing in the Merry Monarch, or had you performed in the Merry Monarch previous to that?
No, that was maybe like after high school. I graduated in 85, so pretty much 85, 86, 87, and then I was done with competing and performing at the Merry Monarch, and I was still at the Polynesian Cultural Center dancing in the night show and the day show.
Yes. So when you got married, it was pretty much, Mom didn't really dance grow up when we were growing up. So it's been more than 25 years, right?
Yeah.
That she hasn't danced hula, so she's finally getting back into it. So we're super happy to see that.
Yeah.
But I did have some questions for her because obviously a lot of things have changed. I feel like the Hawaiian language and even hula has become a little bit more systematized or more formulated, so that it's easier to teach to people. So one thing I learned from Mom is that she didn't learn all the names of the moves. I was asking her, okay, we got to do tutorials and this, but then not all of them have names. And so can you tell us a little bit more about the hula moves and then just like the basics versus a little bit more advanced moves?
Right. So like we were doing a tutorial with the ku'i, and I was doing the ku'i kicking my foot in. That's the way I learned it. And then it was just called ku'i. And I know today there's probably many more names. Or for example, like Lealoha learned how to do a ku'i with her foot kicking out, which I think I've seen before with the men's kahiko in the Merry Monarch with my halau. But I don't think my Kumu Hula side really had us women kick out. It was more kicking in, which they're both correct. But it's just that through time and the way I was taught, like I'm not sure if there's always the correct name. Sometimes
or even a correct way, right?
Right.
Because they're both right.
Right.
They're both okay.
Right. And if you're gonna get like really specific, it kind of defeats the purpose of hula, because it really comes from the inside of what you want to express, and the way you were taught. It's really it can't be wrong. It's what you project and what you see as hula with this step. Another thing that I learned when I was in the Aloha Lāleʻa Hula Studio was that when we did the going around, like for example, let me just show you. When we did the just going around this way to the back and then come back to the front, and you're still doing the I don't know if there's a name for that, because I was taught when Aloha Lāleʻa taught me she was like, okay, go around the island, around the island. And that's what I know it as is, okay, we're going to around the island. So that's what I knew of it. There wasn't really a name for it. And I'm pretty sure there's probably a name for it today. So hey, if you know what it is, put it in the comments. But it's just like, we make maybe our kumus made up the names for some of these, and some of them are correct, like kahola, of course, and hela, the basics, and just different nicknames. And it's okay, because then the students can
express themselves through it.
Yeah, and they're familiar with it. If you have just like terminology and jargon, words that I used in the 80s, my daughter would not know. Maybe some of the words that she used growing up, I don't know. So it's basically, what fits for the students.
And it also goes to show that culture is always evolving and changing. And it also is what we decide to carry with us. And so I think your kumu hulas, what they taught you guys was what they learned and also what they decided to carry on. And I think that's something that goes with every culture. So along with that is hula is storytelling. And I think what you're getting at is you're using the moves to tell a story. You're not just trying to do this formulaic, like I'm doing the kaholo now, I'm doing the ami now, but it's more just telling a story. And so what move is going to tell that story, right? So can you tell us a little bit more about like hula itself? Like what is it? Maybe some of its origins and some of the ancient hula versus how we do it now. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I'm not very scriptorial in like hula history, but what I remember when I was little is you have kahiko, which is ancient, which I just vaguely remember learning this at high school, Hawaiian history, and men did the hula. Women did not. And I think over time, I know that hula was banned when the Christians came to the islands, or even the foreigners that kind of migrated to Hawaii. A lot of our things were banned, even our Hawaiian language. I never grew up learning to speak, and neither did my parents, and neither did their parents, like my grandma and my grandpa. It was basically English. But I know that the Hawaiian language was thriving in early times because the Hawaiians are very literate, and they had even their own newspaper. So I know that they were very fluent in Hawaiian language, which makes me sad that it was just totally banned, that you could not speak it anymore. So I grew up speaking English, which is okay, but I would have loved to have learned to be bilingual. I think that would have been really beautiful. And I can still learn. But what was the question again? I forgot.
Can you just tell us a little bit more about hula and, its origins and then how it's evolved over time?
Yeah, I feel like when I was learning in the 80s, it was really, really simplified, just your basic steps. And then the Aloha Lāleʻa would just teach us such a basic hula, and we'd use the music from like the 50s and 60s. They call it the wiki waki woo hula. And it's kind of like, like pearly shells.
Where I live, there are rainbows.
Mm-hmm. Where I live, there are rainbows. And like hukilau, those wiki waki hulas, keiki hula, sassy keiki hula, little brown gal, that's another one. Those are really fun. That's what I learned. And so it was like, back then it was different. I'm sure like the children today probably learn a little bit harder routines than hula, but hula comes from your heart, and you express the song through the hands, the eyes, your facial expressions, the way you move your body. It really tells a story, If, for example, you're doing like ua, ua, which is rain, you could do in many ways. You can do it like this, you can do it like this. It really depends on what you resonate with it, what you want to express with it. And it's basically telling a story. And then as I graduated from high school, I went on to the Polynesian Cultural Center. It's totally show.
Performative.
It's performance. This is a show. You're specifically taught how to do it this way. Okay, every night you're going to do it specifically this way. And it just becomes fun, However, when we perform with the halau, it's Kumu side bridges, it's totally different because you are performing as a group. So when all the women are together, you're looking at everybody's height. They're all different heights, but when they dance together, you're looking at it as if though it's just one person dancing. But you're still telling the story with the way that Kumu teaches us, because there's some women that might not get the right, because if everybody's looking at your hands this way and someone's looking this way, it's not going to be the same. So it takes a lot of practice.
It sounds like you have learned like a lot of Hawaiian values within learning hula. So like, for example, lokahi is unity, and that sounds like something especially like competing in the Merry Monarch or performing for the Merry Monarch. You all have to be as one, united as one, lokahi. And then it sounds like for performance-wise, it just becomes routine because you have it memorized, you're doing it every day. And so I'm sure there's pros and cons to both. Which one did you prefer? Which one did you enjoy more, do you feel like? Or was it equal?
Yeah, it's pretty much equal. I think when you're with a group of women, you are as one laulima, coming together as one, a whole to make something so simple, so beautiful as a group. And that's really rewarding and fulfilling.
So she used the word laulima, which is many hands. And so laulima is usually used for many hands to make light work, but it's also used as a form of unity. And I use the word lokahi, which is also unity. It's just, there's a lot of Hawaiian words that mean similar things. And it's kind of like hula, where there are similar dance moves, just like how she said, like the rain. You can just do it. You can choose. You can pick and choose. That's kind of the nice thing about the Hawaiian culture. Right. You can pick and choose what you want to, how you want to express that. Okay, so I was going to say, historically, Mama was talking about how the missionaries came and Hawaiian was banned, or basically our culture, there's a time where we weren't allowed to speak Hawaiian, dance hula. So there's a lot of generations, like she said, that don't speak Hawaiian. But when King Kalakaua became king, there was a really huge Hawaiian Renaissance, is what they call it. And so the Merry Monarch is actually named after him. He was the Merry Monarch, like the happy monarch, right? Because he brought back that Hawaiian Renaissance. And so it's fun to know that like Mom competed in that. And that's just a little bit of history about the Merry Monarch.
Yeah, I know. I just think like, okay, so we're in 2025. You know, there are so many beautiful musicians out there that sing Hawaiian music, and it's my favorite, I have to say, is Josh Tatofi, and so he's one of my favorites. And of course, there's the older generation before that. Say, for example, Makahasans of Ni'ihau, Israel Kamakaviva Ole, there's their Kazimero brothers, there's even way back as to Don Ho. So, you know, even way back before that, Auntie Genoa Ke Ave, you know, you've got our way back even before that.
Yeah.
So, Auntie Beamer, you know, and Noah Beamer. So, just that music has evolved over the years. So, whatever you choose and whatever you're passionate about, you know, listen to the music, feel its love and the lyrics, and then you can put your body and your emotions into the song. It's such a beautiful thing. Sorry, getting emotional, but you present what you feel like is hula for you. It really is. It's about you expressing your love and your manao to your family and friends through dancing the hula, through your expressions. Sorry.
That's beautiful. And actually, I have a question about that, because for people who haven't danced like me, one thing that always confused me was, how do the dancers know what to dance? I would see girls in high school go up and they would just start playing a song and she would dance. And I would ask myself, does she know this song? Did she practice this before? And so for those of us who don't know how to dance at all, do we just, like you said, how do you even go about learning a hula for a song? Maybe there's a song that someone really loves. How do you even go about learning that?
Yeah,
is there like a tutorial for it? Is there a formula that people follow? Or is it, like you said, it's just a free for all?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. So of course, it's always nice to have instruction if you can get someone to teach you. That's always a great way.
Like her.
You've got YouTube videos, tutorials to look at. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's just inspiration. If you hear something that you really like and you constantly hear it and you hear it, you'll start to put emotions and feeling into it. Sometimes that can happen. You can just be inspired. There's times where like she was saying, some of the girls at Kamehameha will probably like get up and dance because they just naturally just naturally want to. And there's some children that just, you know, they're not exposed to it, like Lealoha was not, and that's something that she has to learn, you know. But for example, like at the Merry Monarch, when they would have maybe a song for all the kumus to come up on stage to dance.
Yes.
Maybe Papalina Lahi Lahi or something really fun, you know, that they all go up there. But you know what? It's kind of the same. It's kind of different. Like Kumu Sai will be dancing different from another Kumu. And it's just so beautiful that they all come together, even though they were taught differently. Okay. And then sometimes maybe they don't even know the song. Yeah. But then because they're familiar with the music, they know some of the Hawaiian words. They're like, oh, this is pua, you know, that's the flower. Or this is ui. Ui is beautiful, or lani is heaven, you know. And it's just, yeah, if you can get an instructor, that would be great. But then, you know what? It's okay to just like watch tutorials and learn from them. And it's okay to like listen to a song that you really like and then come up with motions and be inspired to put it together.
So that's beautiful. So that answers a big question, because I've always thought that maybe they had something memorized or some kind of routine memorized. But that, I feel like that's really beautiful, because that gives you permission to dance according to your heart. And that's what hula really is. It comes from your heart. So now that we're talking about that, I was wondering if for all of us who are new, what kind of routine would you recommend for a newbie who's trying to learn hula? What kind of routine does that look like? Do you start with a chant? Do you start with, like, how do you just go about doing a routine practice?
That's a good question. I think, of course, go through the tutorials and learn the basics. Kaholo, hela, ku'i, uehe, kalakaua, around the island. I'm not sure what that's called. Ami,
Yeah.
ami around the island. And, you know, the easiest songs first will be in English because it's familiar. For example, pearly shells from the ocean. You know, pearly shells from the ocean, shine in the sun. Or even the most latest, roller coaster surfer ride from Lilo and Stitch, from the Disney movie Lilo and Stitch. And that's in English / a lot of the Hawaiian words. And it's kind of fun to like look at the lyrics first and just familiarize yourself with the lyrics, and then the motions will come. And then from there, progression comes and you'll be like, oh, I really like this song back in the 80s, for example, from the Casimeros, you know, or from another Moccasins of Ni'ihau or something. And then you're like, oh, I want to learn this. So you listen to the music. You maybe even look at the lyrics from online because it's in English. Maybe put some motions to it. And then you're like, oh, maybe I want to do a ku'i here, or maybe I want to do a hela here. So it's basically that. Now that we have so much access to YouTube and videos, you know, there's lots of tutorials out there. And if you want to learn something, I can teach you. Throw it on the comment, and I can learn it and I can teach it to you, and you can watch it and keep watching the videos and rewind and go back and keep practicing, because that's what it really is. And I think if you want to learn something new, like maybe for example you might be getting married, you know, and you want to learn something for your husband and you want to do it at your wedding, shoot out a comment in the comment box to me. Also, like, Christmas is coming up. I'm going to be putting out some Christmas videos in there. You can learn and teach your children some of this, and have, like, when you have a family gathering, you're like, hey guys, we have a performance for you from our, you know, your grandkids can, or your children can perform for your family.
That'd be so fun.
So it's really a progression. And, you know, you start with the easy, which is English, and then you move on to something harder. I think one of the harder ones would be something like Kahiku is hard, you know. And then we have the newest song from the Lilo and Stitch movie, you know, Hemele no Lilo, which is a fun song. But you can dance that, or I'll probably post some kahiko, you know, like Luli Iwe, Noho Nani Mai, those, you know, original ones in the beginnings, but then maybe go a little harder. So as time goes on, just keep practicing, because that's what it really is practice, and it's the progression.
That's awesome. So just like getting into a little bit more nitty gritty, would you recommend like warming up before you start? Would you recommend like just jumping into a song? Would you recommend like sometimes for different halaus they would chant before starting? And another thing is also, what do you suggest that your students wear?
Okay, so when I was doing hula, we never did do a olelo chant before we came into the room, and I'm sure that they do that now. It's probably something that's more of what their kumu expects of them before they enter the classroom, which I think is so beautiful, to do a olelo before coming in, because you're going to bring your presence and your mana into the practice session in the room, in the class. And I think that's important. But I didn't grow up doing that. But I grew up just basically, we'd come together and everyone would find their spot, every other spot. You know, there's 3 rows, but then everybody's, you know, every other one. And then Kumu Rhonda, she would just play her ukulele or her ipu, and she would like, okay, we're going to go. She'd do the, you know, ipu, and then she would kaholo. We do warm-ups, kaholo, hela, and then she goes faster, hela, or she'll go really slow, ami. You know, we would do warm-ups like that for me about a good 5 minutes, and we'll warm up. And then she would get a ukulele and start playing and singing, and then she would go over a song that we had learned, and we would do the whole thing. And then she would go over, maybe back then we had the record player. She would pick something from maybe the I don't know, something from
the record player.
Yeah.
So fun.
And then we would learn the first verse. Stop. Okay, then she would tell us, okay, let's go over it again. And she knew the words. So she would recite the words in Hawaiian to the song. We would go over the motions with it. And that's how I learned. And then she would do that for the whole song. She would play it, okay, do this part. Then she'll lift up the little needle. And then we'll go back and do it again. Then we'll learn the second verse. We'll do the chorus. And then we'll just keep going through the whole song. And then when we've learned it, which will probably just be one whole class session, we go from the beginning to the end, and then we get to know it. And it's so fun because then you know all these different songs.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
routines. Yeah, it's great.
So as far as like, what do you wear?
Oh,
would you recommend a pāʻū skirt? What would you recommend?
Yeah, back then when I was dancing with Miss Aloha Hula, we just came with our street clothes on, which now today I would not recommend that. I think it's more important. Even with the Polynesian Cultural Center, we'd come in with a t-shirt and this whatever pāʻū skirt that we had. Everyone would be in different colors, which is okay. You're at practicing.
Yeah.
But I think it's really beautiful if everybody could come in with, say, for example, the same shirt, maybe a black shirt. It doesn't have to have a logo on it, or even the same color pāʻū skirt, you know. I think uniformity, it kind of brings everybody together, and it just looks nicer, even though you're practicing.
Yeah.
It just looks it looks a little more professional. It's just nice, because kind of like when you go to a job, you're in a uniform, you do your job, you know, a lot better. I'm not saying that, you know, you're in the office and you come in with shorts and t-shirt that you can't do the job, but I think it's just like a professional.
Like, it's like when you wake up in the morning, instead of just wearing your pajamas all day and not getting ready, it's like you just get ready and then you feel better.
Yeah, it just makes it look better. So I suggest that you wear a pāʻū skirt and just a modest top, or, you know, if you're in a class with your kumu, you ask your kumu, like, what should we wear? Should we wear all the same colors? Because I know my sister was dancing for, I think, Chinky Mahoi, and I think they had like same color practice skirt. Yeah. They all had to have the same tops on.
Yeah.
And they all had to have their hair up in a bun. Everybody.
Yeah.
And you're just at practice. But I think it makes it a lot easier when you get ready to perform, because you know what the uniform is.
And it also feels like most are like most other recreational things are like that. Like if you think of karate, like you come dressed. Yeah. You're not just coming in your street clothes.
Yes. Hula is like for everyone. You'd be surprised how much hula goes as far as not just Japan, but it goes out far into Canada, to South America, Brazil. We've got lots of international hula halaus, you know, in Europe. It's just so beautiful that hula is introduced throughout the world. It's not just in Hawaii. It's beautiful to share the culture.
Yeah, I was actually going to say about the outfits is that we picked these colors. We picked yellow. Well, actually, Mom picked yellow. And we named this Hālau Lāleʻa. Lāleʻa means joyful, cheerful. And that's something that we thought that hula brings to your life. And we wanted that you to be able to bring that into your home. And so that's why we called it this. And so you're always welcome. If you want to be a part of this halau, you can wear a black shirt and a yellow pāʻū skirt. Hopefully one day we'll be able to make these shirts available for everyone. And then a yellow pāʻū skirt, that's kind of the theme colors of this halau. And so, yeah, you're, like Mom said, you're definitely welcome to go get any color. But if you want to just like be part of this one and like feel like you're part of this halau, then yellow is the color.
Yeah. I actually sewed mine because I'm a sewer, but if you want me to sew yours, I can, and I'll just mail it to you. You can put that in the comment, and then we'll get back to you. But also, I think Miss Aloha ordered hers through online, and maybe she can put that down in the description where she got hers from. So it's pretty much between 30 and 40. So it's kind of pricey, but it's well worth it because you'll be able to have a hula pāʻū skirt for practicing. Yeah.
All right, we want to thank you guys for sitting with us and chatting with us, and thanks to Mom for answering all these questions. We're super excited to share more content with you guys. If there's any questions that you guys have about hula, about the history, about the culture, about any dances like she mentioned that you guys want to learn, she can learn it and teach it to you guys. We're always up for suggestions, and yeah, thanks for watching.
Yeah,
Is there
thank
anything
you.
you
Thanks,
probably
guys.
want to say something at the end.
No, I just want to say, hey, thanks for watching. And, you know, like I said, imua, just keep moving forward, keep practicing. You know, practice makes perfect. You know, that's what I was taught. But yeah, like I said, just do your best. Put your feeling and your love and your mana'o into what you want to share as you dance. And just go out and just have fun. Thanks, Lealoha.
Thanks. Aloha, guys.
Aloha.